Hello, welcome to another Alpha Strike We Play video. My name is Adam, and as always, I'm joined by Tarron.
Hey buddy, how are we?
We are talking about
C3.
This is an interesting little piece of technology, isn't it?
Yes,
I really
it
like
is.
this.
I love these things. They're pretty groovy, so let's get into them.
All right, swoosh us in. Swoosh. Right, so the Draconis Combine invented a little thing called C3, and it allows for up to a company of mechs to basically share targeting information, essentially. Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's when it first started being done, I looked at it and I went, that is what I want. And
Yeah,
I was modifying
everyone
all of my mechs to have C3 in them. It can be a wee smidge confusing, but it's not on the top end of things that are confusing in this game.
Yeah, that's all right.
So let's have a look.
So class at home, I want you to open your book, your Total Warfare book. We're going to page 133. All
Yes.
right? And
So
we're going to pop some diagrams up on the screen too, but it's all...
The whole
Well, it sort of
C3
starts
thing
at
is
131.
between 131 and 133 in Total Warfare.
Yep.
But there's a couple of configuration diagrams that really need to be seen and explained.
It helps.
It
helps a
helps.
lot.
Let's go into the basics first though.
Yep.
So what you're doing is you are using the C3 communication equipment to link your units together as far as range and targeting information goes.
Yes.
Okay. So you have someone over here near the enemy and you have someone over here who's not near the enemy. If they're linked by a C3 computer, this guy can use this guy's range to target in order to fire his weapons.
Yeah.
And if you've played any BattleTech, then you know that the difference between long range and short range is pretty enormous. It's pretty full on.
It's a +0 to a +4.
Yeah.
Really.
So it's actually a really good thing. So the main thing is probably line of sight. So the units that are, say, over here near the enemy don't actually have to have line of sight on the enemy unless they want to attack. Of course. So they don't actually have to have line of sight in order for the C3 network to pick them up. Right, so you can use that range whether they're in line of sight or not.
Yeah.
You only have to have line of sight in order to fire.
Yeah.
Which, unfortunately for me, means that you can't use indirect fire with the C3 network. You still have to do the normal indirect fire stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so that sucks. But for the awesome sitting on the hill instead of the LRM carriers that are behind the hill, it's pretty damn good.
That's right.
Because that turns his PPCs into short range instead of long range, and
That's
he
right.
just starts blatting people.
And he ignores the minimum PPC
Yes.
range or whatever. So if your ally, who's, say, within 3, you don't have to worry about it. Yes,
Yeah.
you're using his distance, but it's from where you are shooting.
That's
so
where
good.
that's where you calculate your minimum ranges from, is from the attacker, not
attacker,
from
yeah.
the rangefinder.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool as well. Variable damage weapons is another one that happens too. So snub-nosed PPCs, where you've got the 3 range bracket damages. The range bracket is the from the attacker, not from the rangefinder. So that it sucks. You can roll it at short range modifiers, but you're still doing long range damage. Okay, so
A point to know that a minimum of 2 people is sort of required to use the system, obviously.
yes,
You know, but the fact that you can do up to a company's worth, a 12 mech setup, is pretty good.
it's pretty damn good actually.
Yeah.
And they will all share targeting information. Okay, that whole is 12.
Yeah.
Company has 3 Lancers.
Yeah.
And a Lance is 4. So that's 3 full Lancers, 12 units, 12 mechs, all share targeting information.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's good stuff. It is good stuff. In order to do that, you are building the network with master and slave equipment.
Yeah.
Okay, so you actually have to give it a position in the mech, and you have to give it weight, you have to give it critical spaces, etc., etc.
Yep. So your slaves are good. They're only 1 ton and 1 slot.
Oh, they? Okay,
they're
cool.
kind of basic, which is good. It's the master system that coordinates the other 3 in the system that sort of weighs a bit more. I think it was about 5 tons. You're probably going to find that.
I'm looking for it, but I'm not seeing where it is. But what you can do, so the master can control or connect to 3 slaves or 3 other units, right? So what you can do is you take a master unit. You'll see in configuration 1, you have a main central unit that has 1 master unit in it, and then you connect that unit to 3 other units that have master units.
Yep.
Okay. And then you take one of them and you branch it off to 2 slave units. That makes 4. Then you take another one and you branch it off to 3 slave units, right? And then you take the other one and you branch that off to 3 slave units. So that makes you full company. And that's probably the easiest way to do it, I would think.
Yeah. So your head of the company or whatever is essentially going to have 2 master units in their machine. So one, because the second master uses the other masters as the slaves.
Yeah.
And that allows them to all communicate with one another.
So that's configuration 2.
Yeah.
Is where you have 2 masters in 1 mech.
Yeah.
So you have 2 master units in 1 mech. But in configuration 1, you can have 2 separate mechs with a master in each, and then 2 separate mechs with a master in each, and you kind of spread out that way. And like I say, I think that's the easiest way to do it, because you don't have multiple master units trying to cram into 1 mech. I think there's a Cyclops version that's got 2 master units in it. I can't remember.
I don't know.
I'm sure there's one.
They created the Naginata
Yes.
for them that was 3 RM15s and a master system.
Yeah.
So that was created specifically to take advantage of the range. So you've got your slave units goes out there. You can use their distance and really apply the damage. It works really well.
That's essentially what it is. I mean, if you're only playing a lance game, then you can have one of them with a master and 3 with the slave, and you can just shoot one of the slaves out there somewhere and have the others use his range for targeting. It's really good.
Yeah.
But if you want to build up to more, then that is one of the ways you do it. But again, you can have 2 master systems in 1 mech and spread that out to 3 slaves and 2 masters. And let's do that. You can see that on configuration 2 there. You can have 1 guy with 3 master systems. But this is configuration 3 and 4 are where you start actually dropping units out of the network, which is not, I don't think that's useful at all. But it is a way to do it.
If you have a lot of designs that only come with slaves, I mean, obviously your OmniMechs are really good because you can just swap out whatever you need. You know, like the Draconis Combine Sunder. It was a 90 ton mech, and they had some different configurations with slaves and masters and double masters and stuff.
And if you're modding your own mechs, then you can just whack one in and go, no worries. Yeah. But you still have to make space for it. You still have to make tonnage for it. So it's a thing. I think there are a few variants of mechs out there that have masters and quite a few that have slaves.
Yeah.
And you could probably set that top configuration up quite easily.
Yeah.
With just off-the-shelf mechs.
Yeah.
But once you get down towards configuration 3 and 4, I think you'd have to start modding. Because I couldn't pick a mech that's got 4 masters in it off the top of my head.
4 masters. You probably wouldn't even use a mech for it. You'd probably use like a vehicle.
You'd have a support vehicle or something.
Would be good.
Yeah. I'd pick the highest weight vehicle I could find and stick those in there. I mean, you could have an airship with 4 of those in there.
You could.
Just run that across the top of the battlefield and stuff. But that's getting a little more complex than we probably want to get.
Yeah. Dropship would have enough space and tonnage for it. Just load it up with master systems.
Yep, you just whack 4 master systems in there. But again, if you do that, it can only control the 10 total. You only have 10 total units in that network.
Yeah. Configuration 2 seems to be the most common, I've noticed, when people are playing and setting up and things like that. I mean, it's the one I sort of look at. But it is interesting that you can do these other configurations and get the most use out of what equipment you've got.
I can't think of a mech that has 2 master systems in it, but I think there's, like you say, a Naginata or one of the OmniMech type things that has
there is a Sunder version
that has 2.
That has 2.
Okay.
But yeah, it's whatever you want to.
But you've got a bunch of different mechs that have a single master unit and a bunch that have a single slave unit. So building configuration 1 with off-the-shelf mechs would probably be fairly easy to do.
That's right, yeah.
Configuration 2, you'd have to find that specific mech and then build around
custom build it, yeah.
Or custom build it, yeah.
One interesting thing about the master as well is it has the capability to tag.
Yes.
Which is very handy.
So you can use it as a tag system. It functions exactly as a tag system. But that's the master that does that.
Yeah, not the slaves.
Yeah. The other thing you have to know about C3 networks is that you can bring them down.
You can, yeah.
So if you destroy, say, the red master there in configuration 1, if that red master mech or vehicle or whatever it is gets destroyed, or if it takes a critical hit to that master unit, then those 3 subunits are out of the network.
Yeah.
They're gone, right? They can no longer use targeting information or provide targeting information to the network. Okay, so it's...
It does actually say in there that you have to set it up at the beginning of the game.
Yes.
Who's connected to what, and that's it. If you don't do it, then duff nannies, you can't use it at all for the game. So it's very important that if you're going to take these in a game against your mates or whatever, make sure you've planned it out and they know who's connected to what.
Yeah. So, yeah. And it's important that everybody knows. And the rules for that are fairly simple. So, to designate a C3 network, use the following rules. A C3 master can only control 1 to 3 slaves or 1 to 3 C3 masters. And while a C3 master controls another C3 master, it cannot control a C3 slave. Which is why you're probably looking at the first couple of configurations and going, why don't I just have another slave on there?
Yeah.
It's those rules that are doing it. Yeah.
But it's interesting.
Weirdness.
Yeah, it is. But you can make all sorts of configs, which is really handy. I really like that.
Yeah.
But your Guardian ECM, that's your best friend if you want to shut these things down.
Yeah. If you have someone who is taking any of the configurations, if they're taking a C3 regularly for their lance, then consider something like a Raven or any of the others that have ECM in them.
Yeah.
Because anything that's in an ECM bubble is no longer connected to the network. And if you can put that bubble over a master, then it shuts that master's section of the network down.
Yeah.
So all 3 slaves. So the NARC beacon that has a ECM pod would be handy.
Yes.
If you can identify the master unit in a C3 network, get a unit with a NARC pod and a NARC beacon and an ECM pod within range of it, pop it with one of those, and it counts as being in an ECM bubble that is hostile, and it will not be able to connect to the network anymore.
Yeah.
So if you can get that front yellow one, that main yellow guy there in the middle of configuration 1, if you can pop him with one of those, then it shuts the whole network down. But these guys here can then operate as separate networks. So, yeah.
It's also interesting to know that the unit doesn't need to be inside the bubble. If the 2 units that want to use the targeting, if there's someone with a Guardian in between, but they're not in the bubble, but they're in between, it will also block it.
Yes.
All right. So if you can't get to block one person off, whatever, just move in a position that's going to shut that down. So another tactical thing.
Yeah.
It's quite handy.
It's weird. So the masters function as a tag, so you can use your semi-guided missiles with those, but you have to get the unit with the master system on into range to use tag, which is like 9.
15, yeah.
15.
So large inner
There you
sphere,
go.
large laser range.
So it's
pretty
it's not too bad, but I mean you don't want to lose that master unit, so it's up to you.
Considering you're talking up to what 12 mechs on a field, you can sort of you can sort of protect a few of them.
Yeah.
You know, you've got enough units that you can sort of maneuver and do it.
So most of the time you're probably only going to be playing up to a battle lance worth of mechs, and if you can get 1 with a master and 3 with a slave, then
off you go.
good stuff. Get into it.
There was an improved version of C3.
Yes.
This was developed by Comstar, which was also used by the Word of Blake when they did their shenanigans. So it works the same. It's the same but different.
Yeah. It's
kind of cool. It's
good.
kind of cool in its own way.
Yeah.
Because Comstar uses units of 6, so their lances are 6s.
Yeah.
So 4 is not going to work for them. So they needed to come up with something else.
Are they the ones that do levels, or is that Word of
They
Blake?
do so level 1. Yeah.
So
it's
a level 1 is 6. Is it?
No, level 1 I think is an individual.
And
a
then
level 2
is 6.
a lance. So 6. Yeah, that's 6.
But what they've got is C3i can connect 6 together.
Yeah.
And that's their...
It's like they're all
whatever.
slaves and all masters, but without you can't tag or anything like that. But if one of them gets into the bubble, the others aren't shut down. So whatever isn't in a bubble can still communicate with one another.
But they all connect. You can see by the diagram.
Yeah, we'll put that up too. So page 133, C3i diagram.
Yes. And it basically explains it. I mean, every C3i unit is connected to every other C3i unit. So if one is taken out, the others still function as a group.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool. It doesn't give you the tag for the way the master systems do, but it's a good system. There's 6 units and they're all connected to each other at all times.
Yeah. But they can't go any bigger than that. It's 6 is the limit. They can't.
Yeah.
There's no way for them to link multiple 6 units together and just go nuts with it.
But they wouldn't need that if they've developed it for those level 2s. Then those 6 units are operating as a group.
Yep.
You give everybody in that group a C3i. You designate before the game. You say this group here is a C3i network, and then boom, you're off to the races and killing people from a distance.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah, it's quite good. It has a lot of advantages. I kind of like it.
I love them. I reckon they're great. Like I say, I was modding all of my guys to have C3 in them at some point, but there are quite a few off the shelf units that you can get. Was it the command or HQ, the vehicle?
Yeah,
HQ vehicle or something, command vehicle, something like that. It's just a little boop. But you could have one of them with all of this communication system equipment in it, just at the back, and run your dudes forward and do stuff like that. That would work.
I think there was it's called the Morning Star, and I think it's either a Federated Suns or it's a Free Worlds League design.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember, but that one has a master unit in it, so it's wheeled or tracked. It's pretty cool. It's got other weapons and things on it, but it's a vehicle with master, which is handy because it can also tag and stuff like that. So if you've got Arrow 4 flying around, going after it can be quite risky.
Yeah,
so you can be careful.
Well, that's the other thing, is the tag can be used to do artillery, so you can have your artillery in there.
And you're semi-guided. It probably was the Free Worlds League, come to think about it, because they were the ones who did the semi-guided ammo. Okay. So they wanted something that could sort of utilize everything. But
it's quality. I like it.
It's a nice tank, actually. It's pretty cool.
If you can find space in your units for that when you're modding, or if you can find an off-the-shelf version of a mech that you have with a master and slaves, then I say give it a crack, because they're fun. And like I say, you don't have to have line of sight from the rangefinder to the target. So that kind of means that you can put I mean, you could probably modify a Savannah Master or one of the VTOLs, one of the smaller VTOLs, to have a C3 slave in it. You can blast that down to the other end and then use short range from all the way back here. I mean, if you've got a long table, it doesn't say that you can't shoot past extreme range. It says that you use the range from the rangefinder to the target.
Yeah, so whatever the maximum range is of your weapon, considering those, what were those LRMs you were talking about before? The LRMs, were they?
Yeah, the extra range ones are like 31 or 28 or something.
Huge.
Yeah,
It's monstrous
it's
range.
insane. It's insane.
That could be quite useful.
That would be really cool.
There we go.
I've got some others here for you. So if you want funky stuff, TAC Ops is an interesting purchase. Yeah. There is a battle armor version of C3 and C3i. So these things are for mechs or vehicles. They don't fit into battle armor. So there's a battle armor version that's experimental and it's in a sphere, but you can shove it into an entire squad. They all get this small communication system, but they count as one unit in one of these configurations.
I see. So your four dudes in a squad.
In a squad of battle armor.
Yep. They're one
unit, one slave unit. Ooh, and that's pretty handy for people that want to do mixed unit operations. You can now put your battle armor guys in there, and that's pretty cool. There's a boosted C3 boosted system. These are all on 297 to 298. There's a C3 boosted which breaks through the ECM, so hostile ECMs don't affect it. There's an Angel ECM suite, which is an advanced ECM. Yeah. That affects it, but normal standard ECM equipment doesn't affect this network. So if you get the boosted network, boom. Again, experimental and in a sphere. And there's an emergency master, which is kind of cool, because as we said, if the master goes down, that entire section of the network goes down. Yeah. Right, so if this master, the middle master of configuration 1 goes down, that network can't communicate with anybody else. The 2 lancers that are here and this guy, they can still communicate as a group.
As their own little group, yeah.
Share.
They can't share.
Right? So there's an emergency master which will take over the role of a master. It's built in as a slave, but if the master that it's connected to goes down, it will boost up to master level, but only for 6 turns. So the extra computing power and stuff slowly breaks it down. You've got 6 operating turns in which you can still be connected to that network. And considering a lot of our games don't really go past about 8 to 12 turns.
That's right.
6 turns is a big deal.
That's really good.
It's a big deal. So that's a worthwhile try. And then there is a remote sensor launcher.
Oh yeah, we were talking about this one.
For C3. Yeah, it's pretty cool. You actually have to make space for it in your network. So that might be weird. You could have it as a backup system. So if one of the slaves or something go down and you've got a space in that network free, then you could use this launcher to do that. Or you could leave a space out, like don't have a C3 slave in one unit. Say one of the red units there in that configuration, make it a small fast unit with a C3 launcher. And you can go around and you can fire this. You're only allowed to hit it on a hex. Yeah. So that hex becomes the center for range finding. It becomes essentially a static C3 slave connected to that network. Yeah. So it's a weapon and it has tonnage for ammunition. What was it for? Something like 4 shots? I think it was 4 shots and it's about 4 tons for the actual weapon. Yeah. It's explosive ammo, so that might drive your BV down a little bit, which is cool. But you're basically shooting a little pod into a hex, and you're using that pod with all the sensory equipment and stuff in it as a rangefinder for that network. But you have to connect it to a network. And it only lasts for 3 turns, I think I read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's okay, because you're not exposing one of your units to that location for that amount of time. You just come in, shoot, and then leg it. Like you're saying, the light units, just use those.
That's it, yeah. So we were trying to figure out how that would be really useful when you could just have a light unit traveling around and being an actual part of the network.
Yeah.
But trying to keep a small, fast unit out of harm's way while it's there. I mean, you're going to run out of hills to run behind and stuff like that eventually.
Yeah.
You can pop one of these pods down, 3 turns, you've got to just leg it and wait way over here, and then you can leg it back in and pop another one down.
Yeah.
It's an option.
That's pretty cool.
Mm.
So I've noticed a lot of people who take a C3 system will also take units with those Guardian ECMs because your opponent's going to try and shut it down. So ECM counters ECM. If you've got more of your ECM in the area, yours is going to supersede.
And then there's ECCM,
ECCM,
all that sort of stuff.
rules. So yeah, once you start, it's funny, like the games, when they start using this technology, like your target priorities seem to change quite a bit, because there's certain units that are going to cause you problems. You want to get rid of them. Changes. Like electronic warfare is such a, and it is in this game quite a bit, but we're always like, lasers and guns, let's just shoot each other.
But then somebody was saying, target the wizard. That's the thing you do. You pick the unit that has the most offensive potential and you try to take it out.
Yeah.
That's a tactic. It's not the only tactic, but it's a tactic. But if you see a command vehicle at the back of an enemy's line, and it's just sitting there and everybody's using everybody else's targeting information, you go, how do I get to him and kill him? There could be an awesome and 6 dragons or something all wandering around the battlefield blowing you up. But if you take him out, you've got a good chance. So, artillery, indirect fire, fast, light units with something really, really good in it, and just go out to the back. Ping, ping, and their whole network shuts down. Yeah. It's target the wizard. I'd go for the cleric myself, but there you go.
That's right. He wants that healing. Yeah. So there you go. I think that covers everything for that one, mate. But that is very, very cool. That's a cool little piece of technology to use in your games of BattleTech. I really enjoyed playing games with it. Not going up against it when I've forgotten my Guardian ECM mechs. But it's cool.
Yeah. If you branch out into the deeper BattleTech stuff, like rules wise, you can find some really awesome stuff. There's just cool. There's books full of cool stuff.
And if you can't be bothered, you just want to watch our videos, we'll get to them all eventually. This is what we're doing, so it's all good.
Hey, you can have a really, really, really fun game in just like beginner BattleTech with some basic stuff. Make your own rules up for something like this. Say, they're all connected to the network and they can do this and do that and do that, and give it a crack, see what you do.
Yeah.
You don't have to follow the rules, but if you go into this, it's really, really good. It's fun. It's kind of cool.
So there we go. That is C3 and C3i and all the other little bits and pieces around it and stuff. But yeah. So if you've enjoyed this video, consider subscribing and sharing and whatnot and all that stuff.
All the bits and pieces. Yeah. Do all the fun stuff. The algorithm gods.
Had any experience with C3i technology and whatever? Leave some comments. Let us know how it went. Yeah. Any sort of exciting games or bad luck, good luck.
If you know off the top of your head of a mech that has multiple master units in there, put it down in the comments. Off the top of your head though, don't go researching this. Go, Okay.
We won't be able to tell the difference, but we're gonna.
Oh no.
We're gonna. Oh, you're gonna know. Okay.
Oh dear.
All right, people. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in our next video.
Bye guys.